So as y'all know, a lot of players have been having a lot of issues jumping into lobbies and probably joining their friends and trying to start races up, or they were even trying to do races and find people, but that wasn't actually finding players to do them. This was also going to be a huge issue in the ranked lobbies. For one, I mean, if you try to join a race, I was actually trying to do some off-road ones, and I was only able to find one person in them. Sometimes I would actually sit there for 5 or 10 minutes, I would then back out, join again, and guess what? Nobody would join the events itself. Now, I do know we could probably look at this and go, okay, but they were mentioning that there is going to be issues on like crossplay and stuff like that, or there's going to be issues on like the actual region lock. But here's the thing, guys. One thing really isn't sitting well with me on this. And do not worry though, because I am going to take a deep dive into this on why exactly I do feel this way. Now, we all do know in the launch dev diary that they were talking about something along the lines of having pinging issues or server issues if someone was in Europe then you're going to be in the United States or something like that. And I went, wait a second, pause right there. We do know a lot of current racing games are doing a crossplay and cross region in the actual game. Starting off with one game right now is going to be Need for Speed Heat. Mind you, that game also came out 5 years ago, man, so they were doing it then. I'm also pretty sure you can actually play in actual like open lobbies with PC players if you are on console. I think you can at least. I do know for a fact you can actually race with people if they are going to be in different platforms, which again is going to be incredibly helpful. I'm also going to break down why that exactly is incredibly helpful. We're also then going to have Need for Speed Unbound that's doing it pretty dang well. And then of course on top of that we do have the cross-play like matchmaking system in the Crew Motorfest for the grand races. Now I do know people can step in and go, well there's going to be so many factors to this. And that is going to be true, but here's the thing, those games are pretty dang flawless, man. I remember playing Heat recently, which I have been playing that a bit more with how racing games currently are. I was actually doing some racing lobbies in there, and even with PC players, man, the game was still really smooth. I would even say this for Need for Speed Unbound, like most of the time my lobby might have like maybe 3 or 4 PlayStation players, depending on like, the matchmaking. Then I might have 5 or so other PC players in there, and guess what? It is running very smooth about 95% of the time, so it does actually work. On top of that, I also do admit that doing like grand races and Motorfest, it's pretty dang smooth, bro. Like if you are playing with a lot of PC players, it doesn't have that many issues. Like yeah, you might have occasional lagging here and there, but it's not every time you actually do an event, and it's not every time you actually play it. So I guess the biggest thing I'm probably trying to say here is yes, that you can actually have crossplay and also the actual cross region in the game, and yes, it can probably work, of course, if it is done right. Now, I do actually want to talk about why I really think this is going to be a huge issue, though, which I'm going to guess right now and say everybody is going to agree with. Now, I have actually discussed in different videos that the entire, like, online matchmaking system in this game is going to be an entire problem in itself. I have to admit, guys, the fact that you actually have to go into a random race around the entire map, there is over 170 of those races, you join that, and you're also hoping that somebody in your said area on the same platform as you is trying to join the exact same race as you at that exact same time, which is, that is just not a good system, man. They really should not have done it like that. I think a separate multiplayer system was the best way to do it. Someone actually mentioned in a recent comment in a video, guys, and man, it was on point. They were like, why don't they make like a different building around the map somewhere that's going to be like a ranked NPC? You go in there and talk to them, or like a PvP NPC even. You go in there, talk to them, and that's where you actually matchmake into like playlist events or random races stacked up against each other. Wouldn't that make a lot more sense, bro, than having an entire random system thrown in there to where, oh, let me go join into this random event and hope other random players are trying to join this random event at the exact same time as I am on the same region, on the same platform? That just, look, man, that just doesn't make sense to me. And I would also say a lot of players are going to look at this and go, yo, that actually makes a lot of sense. And here's the other issue on top of all of that. And now also looking at this from a different angle, let's also take a look at the actual player bases. Now, the reason why I did want to talk about this is this plays a huge factor in matchmaking to actually find races. We all do know right now on the PC, at least Steam side of it's around 1,500 players. Normally around peak, it was around 2,000 with the update. And at nighttime, it goes down to around 400 people. The thing is, if it was actually that low, how many of those 400 or 500 people, for example, are actually going to want to play ranked? Now, maybe a lot of them would, but a lot of them might also want to race completely solo, which would probably make sense because players enjoy racing like that. The other issue is how many players are actually on consoles and all that wanting to do ranked matches, and how many people are actually playing on consoles. I did see somewhere that apparently it was 100,000 players. Is that going to be accurate? I would probably say it's not that many people being real. Like, there's no way it's that much. The only reason why I say that is most of the time in my lobbies, I rarely get full lobbies when I'm playing online. And it's normally not a lot of people in the races whenever I join a race. I think out of the over 130 hours I have in this game, I think I might have actually encountered 4 people the entire time in different races. Also trying to join ranked matches, I couldn't find people in certain ones. So I would probably say, yeah, it's going to be an issue. Now, the reason why having no crossplay and having the game region locked is going to be an issue is going to come down to a few different factors. The first one I'm going to dive into right now is going to be free roam. Now, I do understand once again that not every game has crossplay free roam, I get it. But here's the thing though, if you actually had a crossplay free roam type of thing in the game, which I honestly think every racing game should have it, why? Well, here's the reason. Let's say you actually buy the game on PS5 and your best friend's going to be on a PC. You can't even drive around the map with them, cruise around, and actually just mess around a bit because the game is not going to allow you to even invite them. Here's the other issue, guys. Yeah, you can't play with PC. If you actually have a friend on Xbox, you can't play with them. You also know what's insane about this, bro? Let's say you're actually in the United States and you're on PS5. One of your best friends is going to be on Xbox in America, man. You still can't play with them. Let's take another look at this, for example, though. Let's say you're actually both going to be on PS5, but your friend's going to live in Europe. You actually live in the United States. You can't play with them because the game is region locked to you. I'm sure people are starting to see where this is actually going. No matter what, the game lobbies are always going to feel a bit more empty doing it this way because a lot of players probably have friends and stuff like that in other countries they want to play with, but they can't. That is going to be a big problem, man. And it's insane to think about, though, because I actually have a friend that does live in Europe, and we can't even play test drive together. I would actually say that's going to be a pretty big annoyance for many people that have friends overseas or in different countries, and they actually want to play. They can't even play the game together. And on top of that, if you actually were on different platforms, man, forget about that because that is not happening. Being on a different platform in a different country, bro, oh, you're that, yeah, that's not happening. And on top of that, if you're actually in the same country, let's say you're both in the US or both in Europe, if one's on PS5, the other's on Xbox, or PC and Xbox, or PC and PS5, guess what? You still can't play together. So I'm sure people are probably seeing where I am going with this. But here's the thing though, there's going to be a whole nother issue on top of it, besides the entire free roam problems of not being able to play with people, or at least your friends in general. Guess what that's going to be? I'm sure everybody probably knows already. The matchmaking, yes, probably doing that like rainbow thing from SpongeBob where he says imagination, because that's kind of where I'm at right now. But that would actually be the biggest issue I would see Test Drive facing in the future. Why? Let me explain. We all do know right now that trying to find a rank match at the moment is going to be a huge problem in certain places. We all do know right now that not everybody's playing the game. We all do know the servers are probably not the greatest still. And we also do know most of the player base is probably not all that great. So guess what? If you're going to be in the US on PS5 or PC, you're going to be in Europe on PC or PS5, the overall player base is probably going to be fairly low to begin with, which of course is also going to make it even harder to find a lobby. Now here's the other crazy part of it though. Let's take another look at this. Let's just say there is around 500 players on PC playing the game. That's actually going to be global, which I have to admit is going to be an incredibly low number, which is also going to be like nighttime when everyone is sleeping. So it does make sense. Every game does obviously drop at certain times during the day or even certain times during the week. That is not going to be shocking. What is going to be shocking though is out of all those players that might actually be on the game, even if it's 1,500 people, how many of those players are actually going to want to do ranked in each specific region actually playing on PC? You are most likely going to have a very hard time even joining a ranked race on PC or even on PlayStation. Guys, like as I mentioned before, on the PS5, I have barely found anybody in the rank matches. The insane part is, yeah, you might actually find one or two people. Sure, you could probably go start a group and actually join one, but again, that's not that fun. And there's also going to be a reason why I actually think this. You shouldn't always have to go into a random online lobby to find a group of people to do ranked with. What if you actually wanted to join a race and do it and compete and stuff like that, but you actually can't because the lobby is never going to be full? Like, sure, you might actually be able to get one or two people in that lobby, hopefully, depending on your platform, and also depending on the region you're actually in. But don't you guys actually think having a full lobby of ranked would be way more fun than having two or three people in that set event? And for me, that's probably going to be the biggest issue. Like, you won't even be able to find a full ranked match because the game's going to be locked to certain platforms and certain regions. I think we can all agree the long-term effect on this game, guys, having that system is not going to be good. Do let me know what you guys think about the entire matchmaking system in the comments below. On top of that, what do you think about not having crossplay and the entire region lock design in Test Drive Unlimited Solar Crown? I hate to admit this, but I do think the entire way they did end up designing this is going to hurt this game's future.